Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, securities analyst, and advisor, Morty Davis is a Wall Street legend. In addition, Mr. Davis is an outstanding economist and highly articulate, incisive, and very entertaining political analyst and strategist. He's Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical economic and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on social media and artificial intelligence is Jesse Broom. Jesse is a digital and social media marketing expert and entrepreneur. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Broom.
Welcome back. It's great to be with you once again, my cherished listeners and collaborators and the people that make the podcast so worthwhile. I get your messages in the mail and by phone all the time, and I couldn't be more impressed with your collective wisdom, your individual wisdom. So keep it up. I look forward to Wednesday, 6:30 every week, and it's good to be back with you once again. I'm delighted that today we have a sensational guest, Mr. Jesse Broom, who's going to, like every other broom, clean up everything that occurred this week, and in general, the events that we tend to discuss each week. Inevitably, I start off by apologizing because the news, unfortunately, that's reported, that makes the front pages of the magazines and the newspapers and breaking news on television and cable networks and so forth. The only stuff that makes the headlines and calls your attention sort of urgently or importantly are the tragedies of the week, the wars, the mass shootings, the treatment of immigrants at the border and throughout our cities, and the treatment or mistreatment of people of our own society, of our own members of society, in addition to all the wars we seem to be, even though there's peace in the world, there's at least 4, 5, 6, 7 wars going on all the time, which is a sad commentary to begin with of human nature and how, with the progress of civilization, we have not learned to eliminate the pain and the torture and the unfairness of wars, where each side participating in the war has its promising young men and women sacrifice their lives and are taught to kill the so-called enemy, even though absent the enemy, these very same young people might be best friends and do things together to make the world a better place. So my hope is that as we become more civilized, I'm skeptical because every time we make progress, it's in the form of a more efficient way to reach each other from a longer distance and kill each other faster and maim each other. And we don't even count the cost of these wars in addition to the killing and maiming of so many, our most valuable asset, our future, the young people that are going to be the future of our country, of our world. So I apologize because inevitably as we go through it, the news we report is inclined to it depresses me, so I'm sure it must depress you as you hear of it if you haven't been depressed during the week already, if you paid attention. As I mentioned a number of times, I had some brilliant young people come to me with a business plan that was well written, and that's why I agreed to see these people, because I get tons of submissions of business plans with all kind of future technology and services and human needs satisfaction. And I only see those that make a very compelling presentation. And when I agree to see them, it's because I feel that this would be a wonderful topic or a wonderful business to back, because it fills some human need. And so the purpose of the interview, of having them come in and visit, is to determine if these are people that can actually carry out the mission that their business plan defines, outlines. So I get some great submissions because people pay somebody that's an expert $50,000 or $100,000 to help them write the projections and the deck, a compelling story of how they're going to be millionaires or billionaires as a result of the activity of this company that I'm going to offer to my public investors at relative attractive prices, investment opportunities, because I do believe that they will bring tremendous rewards. But I had one group of young people, men and women, come in, and they were very articulate, very impressive. But the subject of their business plan was to produce good news on the internet, on cable television, on network television, and throughout every media outlet. And it sounded very compelling, except as I went through it, I realized that none of these suggestions, while they're very positive and good teaching mediums or attitudes or lessons, were not likely to impel people to really want to listen and tune in, not every week, but not even 1 week. So I complimented them on the terrific presentation, but I turned down their submission to take it public or to get them at least the first significant round of investors with a view towards taking the company public through an IPO an initial public offering or through growing the company to a stage where they could sell it to another major company. And that's my objective, to make a lot of money for my clients. So I told them I thought they did an excellent job, that the presentation was phenomenal, whether they did it themselves or had a lot of assistance in preparing it. But I couldn't be compelled. Convinced, it's better than compelled. I couldn't be convinced that this was something that would grow into a major weekly, daily destination for the masses. And so I turned it down. So by virtue of that introduction, I tell you at the outset that what we cover is all the wars, all the mass shootings, all the pandemics throughout the world, almost all of it, not almost all of it is bound to shock and aggravate and maybe show the not the weakness, but the vulnerability of our human beings, a fellow man, in creating a world over time that gets better and better and better, eliminating wars and killings and cooperating between countries instead of always having enemies. And if they're not enemies yet, we always find 2 or 3 countries that we disagree with violently, or we get involved in other conflicts that have very little to do with our own needs, long-term objectives. We act contrary to one of our founders, one of our admired forefathers, Monroe. What was Monroe's first name? James Monroe? James Monroe, who argued that we, as a founding new nation, should only get involved if we are attacked directly, and only in that event and our direct neighbors, the ones on our own, not planet, but hemispheres, yeah. In other words, North and South America. And this concept that's evolved over the years, that's repeated all the time, peace through strength, is the biggest misleading statement I ever heard of. Because the stronger countries get, the more military equipment they get, the faster they go to war. It hasn't worked out that way. The United States is the strongest, most powerful country in the world today and ever, and we're in more wars than any other country in the world. Since the end of the Second World War, we've been in constant wars, although we've never been attacked till this very day directly. Not one individual has been killed by foreigners in this country, except for maybe 9/11, when 3,000 people were killed. But other than that, even Pearl Harbor, which we celebrated the anniversary, if you call it celebrated, we noted, memorialized December 7th as the FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, called the Day of Infamy, because we were attacked, although nobody in America, in our own country, on our own land, in our own cities, was hurt. They attacked the Japanese while they were in discussions diplomatically in Washington. Their ambassadors and spokesmen and political leaders and elected leaders were in Washington, and they attacked Pearl Harbor, where we had a major base of battleships and destroyers, and several thousand Americans were killed. That's the closest we ever got, along with 9/11, of actual Americans, our own people, our own citizens, killed. But we enter wars throughout the world. We haven't won a war since the end of the Second World War. Right after we had peace at the end of the Second World War with Japan and Germany, and achieved unconditional surrender and ran the countries for years, unlike we do in more recent periods of wars where we are victors. We immediately put in their own leaders, their own officials. In Japan, we put in Douglas MacArthur as almost a dictator to the Japanese people, but with, worthwhile objectives to help them get back, build their country back up. And in Germany as well, it was 8 years before we had the German people vote for their own leaders. So today, when we won in North Korea, we immediately put in their leaders, their popular chosen leaders, and then when we asked them to please, if any of our military personnel stationed in their country to protect them committed some what they visualize as a crime, or as in general a crime or a felony, we asked the leader to allow the United States to hold them responsible and take them under our jurisdiction in terms of the judges that judge them and the juries that judge them and so forth. So it's interesting that in all the years that we've been going to war, that we entered wars, after the Second World War, immediately thereafter, a few years after the Second World War ended in 1945. In 1950, we went to war in Korea. We had no presence there, no real interest, but we thought maybe communism would take over. Until this day, we won the war, but we haven't had a peace treaty of unconditional surrender. We're still at war, at least in that we don't have a peace treaty with North Korea. And we have troops stationed in South Korea. And then we went right after that to Vietnam, where to this day I don't know what provoked us to go there. The French were fighting a war there. We lost so many tens of thousands of young American men and women, and not talking about the blood and treasure that we sacrificed. And shortly after that, we had conflicts with Russia, although we didn't ever get into a war, but we each sort of did whatever we could to undermine the other country and scare the other country out of their boots, because we each built up military and atomic weapons that were so frightening that when we launched the atom bomb in Japan in 1941 and killed only civilians, the scientists who worked on atom bomb, and I think it was in the deserts of Utah and wherever, and warned the politicians that they were not sure that using those weapons wouldn't destroy all of civilization, all of humanity, because they didn't know the impact that the radiation would have on the world. But we launched it anyway. These days, we have atom bombs or nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs, hydrogen bombs that are 1,000 times more powerful than what killed over 200,000 Japanese in one day. None of them military, none of them with arms. And if we use them, scientists are not sure, because we can't test it before we use them. So not sure that we wouldn't destroy the whole world in the process. And it's sad to say that while initially, at the beginning of our so-called civilization, the only way you could hurt somebody is if you were within 10 yards of them, maybe 30 feet or something. So you could hit them with a rock, a stone, a branch, and you could do only limited damage, one person at a time. And as we progressed, then we developed what do you launch with a bow and arrow, the ability to hit somebody from a distance. What's that called?
Slingshot.
Slingshots, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delighted we have this brilliant guest today, Mr. Broom. So you could hit somebody from maybe 100 yards with a slingshot, but only with limited damage. You had to have a rock and a slingshot or something. Then we developed guns. You could hit somebody maybe a block away. They used to have duels where each one separated by a distance of a normal block, and turned around, and the referee or the umpire or the head of the duel would say, ready, aim, fire, and they'd shoot at each other from a distance, from a block away. But it yielded one bullet at a time, rarely hit the opponent anyway. But as we've progressed, we moved to cannons and tanks and airplanes that bomb, and each time more devastating and more capable of reaching the enemy, so-called enemy, or the person you're having a conflict with from a greater distance. So much so today that we can reach Asia, the farthest distances in the world, and North Korea can reach the United States. So all this progress, which is phenomenal, it would indicate, based on past behavior, that before long somebody's going to use the most, because every time we've done it, we thought, well, maybe this will end wars and we'll stop killing each other. We'll recognize the complete nothingness, worthlessness of these activities. And all the time, I'd like to point out, and all the time, the United States has been in existence. Not one member of the president's family or the congressional members of their family, their wives, their children, has been killed in the United States by a foreign invader or a foreign weapon launched here. And so, but we're always in wars. Right now we're in at least 6 or 7 wars. What do you call it? In Afghanistan recently, I don't know why we went to war in Afghanistan. They never attacked us. It's true that Osama bin Laden, who happened to be Saudi Arabian, and the 9 out of the 11 or 12 people that perpetrated the 9/11 bombings that killed 3,000 Americans in the World Trade Center and several hundred more in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon, were almost all Saudi Arabian. Not one of them was Pakistani, but went to war against Pakistan, where it's almost impossible to reckon the amount of treasure and blood that we sacrificed in that encounter, and didn't even win the war. We have nothing to show for it. Russia was there before us and pulled out without winning, and before them others had the same experience. And we never won. We left, although the war was, at least, we dominated, but as soon as we left, much of what we achieved has disappeared. The reversion to women not being educated and the mistreatment of women. So, but every day I point out that thousands and tens of thousands of Americans, and over the course of a year, millions of Americans are killed by all kind of diseases, Alzheimer's and what's the worst disease? cancer, right? Cancer. Every day. And we spend billions for so-called defense spending. I don't know why they call it defense spending. At least we should have part of it called offense spending, because we haven't defended our shores and our own domestic land since its inception. The only war we had domestically was our own people against each other in the Civil War. So, and I like to point out, till recently, when I was young, the Defense Department was called the War Department. And then they figured out that was not a good thing, because defense everybody could understand and it makes sense. But War Department sounds like you're an aggressor and you're entering war. And so they used that. Nobody could have a vote against defense spending because you're protecting your own society. And also, it's our most lucrative export. Arms is our most lucrative export. All the wars that are fought throughout the world are primarily not funded, although they're funded as well by the United States in many cases, but armed by American equipment. So we're the most powerful military country in the history of the human race. And despite the peace through strength, people don't realize we're the most warrior-involved country of any, although we're the most strength-wise, we're the strongest, but we don't achieve peace through that. So, and you'd think that the president would worry about his family and his kids and work on the things that are going to kill them, destroy them, punish them through Alzheimer's and the multiple diseases that are so harrowing, the pandemics and so forth. And we don't have a defense spending. We spend almost $1 trillion now during peace in defense spending. And all the congressmen and senators love it because they go back and tell their constituents in each case that we just won a military contract, because even though Boeing and Lockheed and Raytheon are the ones that get the major contracts, it's all the subcontractors. Every single state gets the ability to have military camps in their states and builds naval vessels and acts as subcontractors to the major military contractors. So they come back and brag. I just brought back 10,000 jobs to North Carolina because we're going to work with Lockheed or Northrop or any of the major contractors. And they brag about it, how great it is, that they've brought back all these killing capacities to their own state. So defense spending. Recently, for some reason, the United States, under the current administration, what's his name, the Secretary of Defense?
Pete Hegseth.
What?
Pete Hegseth.
Yeah. I could never remember that name.
Yep.
even if you said it, I can't repeat it, decided that we're going to go back and call it no longer call it the Defense Department, but we're going to go back and call it the War Department. So at least that's more honest. But the war against the things that kill us, for that we got to go around with collection boxes and ask people to donate to cancer research and to Alzheimer's research and all the different things that kill the children. And in a way, it's unfortunate that more of the members of the Congress don't lose kids to those diseases, because they might be more inclined, more motivated to spend the money on that and bring, if we spent the kind of money that we spend on military preparation, on so-called defense spending or War Department spending, if we spent that on cancer research and pandemics and Alzheimer's. So, but I start off apologizing and knowing that the discussion that everybody's interested in, witness the headlines and the breaking news, is depressing news. Mass slaughters, wars that are going on, earthquakes, tsunamis, all the things. Those get urgent announcements, breaking news. So, given that, I wanted to tell you how to avoid that and how to be happier. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book called, it's on your screen if you have your screen up, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. You can't see the bottom of the cover page, but it says how to be happy no matter what. And this book that I developed, because all of the ideas in this book were ones that I learned over the years, and I became dedicated to providing for others, because I used to be depressed and spent a lot of my days looking back on disappointments and failures and things that disappointed me, until one day I ran across a book by a Catholic bishop, Bishop Sheen. What's his first name? Milton Sheen? Called The Power of Positive Thinking. And after I read that book, Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And that book, and another one by Dale Carnegie called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, changed my whole attitude for the rest of my life, from spending all my time focusing on the negatives and being positive. And since it changed my life so positively, because if you think positive, if you think the glass is half full, at least during that period, you're satisfied. And when things go bad, then at least you've reserved whatever strength you have to deal with the problems. But if you're always looking at the negatives, when you run into an actual challenging, devastating experience, tragedy, failure, disappointment, whatever, you have the strength and the resources to deal with it. And actually, I found if you think positively, positive things happen. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, and since you're in control of your own mind, each of us is, I found I was in control once I read these brilliant books. I've researched the book. I worked on it 12 years, and I was still working to add to it by every source I could find, every religious teaching, every priest, rabbi, guidance counselor, psychiatrist, every person, every philosopher going back to the Greeks, Aristotle and Plato, and throughout the ages, Freud and Einstein, and gathered all that information. After 12 years, I was still adding to it, but I think I covered almost all of it, but I wanted to make sure I gave my reader everything I could to give them happiness. Not happiness in the sense as Americans, as we Americans think of it, as, slapping each other on the back and laughing and jumping up and down because we had 12 beers or a fifth of vodka or even worse, some addictive drug that gives us a high. But really, the word happiness more as it's defined by contentment, always being content throughout your life. So as I depress you, as we depress you in this podcast today, I would urge you to go out, don't wait. Wait till the end of the podcast, but run out and acquire a copy of this book, because I guarantee you, and I know that from experience because everybody who's ever written to me or called me, even the ones that might have some minor criticism, told me it's been of enormous benefit and uplifting them and inspired them, and it's changed their attitude towards life. But I still didn't finish it till my daughter said she read it. She's written a number of books and said, "It's great, Daddy, get it published." And she convinced me, and then she joined me, and now she's on the cover too, my daughter Rookie. So I know it works, and I'm so sure it works that I'll give you a deal that you can match. And the reason I can give you this deal is because my experience says so far nobody's come back and taken the deal. And if they did, I would be glad, not glad, I would agree to refund not only the purchase price, but if you send me your purchase slip, or if you got as a gift and you sent me the purchase slip of the person who gifted the book to you, and you said, I just didn't get anything out of it, it wasn't uplifting, it wasn't inspiring, all the things that others say it is, I said, I'll not undo what many companies do on television today. They say, if you take this supplement, this drug, we'll refund your money, and you could even keep the bottle or the rest of the pills, and we'll send you your money back. But I'll send you double your money back. So that in itself should make you happy. You go out, run out, and don't wait, because if you don't get it right away, you'll delay it, and the benefit comes immediately. Uplifting, fulfilling your dreams, getting you on the right path to contentment. which is true happiness, genuine, uplifting, fulfilling, inspiring happiness. So, just as a quick idea, so even before you buy the book, I'll tell you one quick solution, and that is find out some goal, some aspiration you have, and start working on that aspiration right after this day, as soon as you determine what that is. But don't do it lightly. Spend time thinking about it, something that would make you happy to achieve your goal. Very much like Thomas Edison was approached by a young man and said, "Mr. Edison, I don't understand how you failed 1,000 times and you never gave up. Most of us, we fail once or twice or three times, once or twice or three times at the most, and we throw in a towel. And you did 1,000 times." So Thomas Edison said to him, "Young man, who told you that I failed 1,000 times?" He says, "Everybody knows that. We always talk about it. My high school teachers discussed it. My college professors discussed it. They talked about it in the concept of perseverance, of the necessity and desire to stay at something that you want to achieve and go at it, and don't get discouraged the minute you have a failure or two failures." So Thomas Edison said, "I never failed once." But the young man said, but we all talk about it. We know, everybody knows. It's not a secret." He says, "Young man, I never failed once. 1,000 times I succeeded in finding out what didn't work. And each time I went back to work on it, I knew I was getting one step closer. And when I finally got there, I was so thrilled. It was worth all the failures and all the time." And so remember, if you're pursuing, and your life gets meaningful, if you pursue a goal that is worthwhile in your mind is an aspiration that you would find fulfilling, every time you go back to working on it, just as Thomas Edison did, every time he went back to work on it, he said he loved working on it because he was inspired, knowing that he's one step closer. So instead of just being a blog, a glob in this world, a thing that exists in this world, have a purpose, have a goal, have meaning, help people, do good deeds. And all the time I give charity. All the income I get from this book, if you buy it, I don't keep it. Every penny is donated to some charity, to scholarships for kids that can't afford to study, to be doctors, and for people that are deprived of enough necessity in the form of those at the lower end of the economic ladder, deprived of money for food or drug, pharmaceuticals. If you do that, helps others, it's a wonderful feeling. In all the 5 years I've been doing this mitzvah, this thing of merit, I remember most of initial time, I saw an old lady standing on the edge of the sidewalk, and every time she put her foot off the sidewalk and wanted to cross the street, she had to pull it back because she heard the cars coming. She was totally blind. So I walked over to her and I said, "Could I help you?" And she said, "Oh, please, mister. Yes, that would be such a nice thing." When I reached the other side, she smiled and she was so happy and appreciative that in all my life, I never got such appreciation from that walk across the street with this poor old woman that was standing there, helpless, nobody volunteering to help her. So those are the rewards of doing good things for others, especially if you start with your own family, your wife, your children, your neighbors, your community, your country, your fellow man throughout the world. So do that. And this book will inspire you to do that, and you'll be well on your way to a contented life, a rewarding life, instead of being just a glob or whatever it is, a blog, a thing in this world, and being important to somebody, hopefully more than a somebody, to many people, and most of all, admire yourself. In the last analysis, the thing that makes us happy is being proud of our own achievements and the good things we do. So there are thrills that give you momentary joys. Those aren't the things that make us happy. But the things of genuine goodness and helping others and seeing their smile and you're smiling to them, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's like light when you turn on in a room. Yeah, you're doing it for yourself. Or in a library, you're doing it for yourself. But it lights up all the people that want to read or want to spend the night with light instead of candlelight in the old days, or lamppost lights that they had to walk around at night lighting lampposts. So do that. Once you launch that effort, you'll see the whole meaning of your life. It'll become worthwhile and rewarding. So without further ado, I urge you to do that. And that's only one small suggestion encompassed in this book. It's a good thing my daughter forced me after 12 years to finally finish it with her help, with her additional help, to get some additional ideas, worthy ideas, and publish the book. And the feedback I get has been so fulfilling for me, even if I never kept a penny of it, which I don't. But I use that money for charity as well. So if nothing else, it'll make you happy to get you double your money back. But please don't run out and buy 400 books. So I have to give you 400 times double your money back. Anyway, I got such a vital, important, really great guest joining me on the podcast today, Mr. Jesse Broom. He's a genius in marketing in the age of algorithms, social media, AI, and human messaging, machine learning. Jesse, why don't you give us a brief background on yourself and your business? What unique perspective do you bring to the intersection of marketing, technology, and society, and any insights that you may have that will benefit my valuable, priceless listeners?
Well, thank you for the intro, and by the way, I've started reading your book, and it's been really it's been a source of contentment for me. Social media can be depressing. A lot of times when we read the biggest headlines, and a lot of what people post is to inflame or to incite a feeling and to get clicks.
Or to do evil or to do evil like pedophile to young kids.
It's terrible, but hopefully there's some good sides to social media. But anyway, a little bit about my background. I've actually been in marketing for over 20 years. I started out with the little.
How do you know when you finished?
I don't know.
At least in school,
Never.
when you finish with the course, they give you a grade and you know you're finished. 20 years and you're still not finished.
I'm still not done. And it's...
if you're doing good things, never get done.
Right, exactly. I don't want to work a day in my life, right? If you enjoy what you do. Started with a little marketing agency. Back then it was only search marketing, so did a lot of work on Google. And then the social media came about. And my work was in content development, so I did a lot of writing, like you. Wrote a lot, and social media was great because I had another platform to storytell about businesses. That's why I got into this. I like to work with business owners. I like to work with small businesses and help them get their message out. And social media is a great tool for that. Despite all of the negativity we see out there, there's a lot of positive. And started my own marketing agency in 2017 called Social Netwit. So a little bit of play on words. And
Social
Netwit, yeah.
Nitwit?
Not a nitwit.
Not a nitwit.
A netwit. And from there, I balance a little bit between local small businesses and business to business. So some of my businesses that I work with are acupuncturists, insurance agents, small financial firms, and then on the flip side, a lot of my B2B businesses are in healthcare, education, financial literacy,
Great.
Nonprofits. I work with a trade association, so a lot of different types of businesses, and that keeps me interested and in the game. Yeah, and just enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay, let me start by posing the first question.
Sure.
Should social media be regulated like public utilities?
So I don't think they should be regulated like public utilities. However, I think social media, and especially this is where our government comes in, needs to create some baseline governance around what we should be doing. How these companies should interact and how they should build their algorithms. We don't have a lot of transparency into these algorithms right now, right? There's, we hear it a lot with TikTok. I think these companies need to be a little more transparent about how they're using our data, because it's us that's fueling their bottom line. And then from there, I think the social media companies need to do a better job of how they police the information on their platforms, and to be fair and balanced, which I don't think we always get from these social media companies. Is they need to treat everybody fairly. And they do need to be the arbiter of information. They need to, when there's misinformation, they need to flag it consistently. And when there's good information, they need to rank it higher than some of the inflammatory or negative or misinformation that's out there. So I think it's a little bit of government and a little bit of public companies doing the right thing.
If anything, with AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's exploding even more.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I wouldn't like to be run like the government supervises utilities,
Right.
because the utilities seem often to be raping their consumers. It's been was supposed to control the prices so they don't act like they're just greedy capitalists, but they've done none of that because
Right.
utility costs have gone through the roof.
Right.
Is TikTok a national security threat or just another platform?
So I think there's kind of two answers to this question. I think on the one hand, TikTok has an incredible platform that helps people engage in a different way. There's a lot of content creators there, and there's a lot of people making money from building their content there. So I think that's a good thing. I'll flag it as a good thing. On the other hand, we have to know better who we're dealing with, who's behind what's going on. And so if we pull behind the curtains, there's good reason to be nervous about the Chinese Communist Party and China and how they're using our information. I've been a big proponent of controlling your own data. So, we're the ones creating the content, the people. And so in some way we need to participate in how our data is being used on these platforms, and that's not the reality right now. It's more of they're more of a vacuum sucking up all the information on us.
How is AI currently affecting social media and marketing, and how will it shape the future?
Yeah, so this is where the rubber meets the road for me a little bit, because I've been very much when I work with clients, I bring a certain personality or human element to the work. I don't like to let AI write the content. I like to do it, and that's comes from years of understanding how to work with business owners. But it is true that this is a tool that we can use to create content and build better content and things that resonate and do it more quickly and efficiently. So I think for the time being, there's going to still be a human element there. But it is definitely AI is handling a lot of the tasks that we would normally attribute to our humans. And one of the ways, for instance, one of the ways that I use AI is I used to have a staff of writers. I would interview the client, and then I'd hand off those notes to the writer. Now I hand it off to AI. They build a template to work with, and then I go in and I fine-tune that content. So I don't have to go a lot of back and forth with writers. I go sort of back and forth with the AI to make sure that it's speaking to the client, to what the client wants to message out to their audience. So I think that's still very important, that there's a human there and that the ideas of that business are being conveyed by a human. And somebody said to me once, why would I want to read anything that a robot wrote or AI wrote if you're not going to spend time to write it? Why am I going to spend time to read it? And I think that's very true. So I think everybody should think about that when they're creating a video, when they're writing something, is why is the reader going to read what it is that you wrote or watch whatever you've produced if you haven't spent any time on it? And I think people still feel that very much when they look at the content being built.
But it, like all advancements, it has very positive attributes. You don't have to spend time on more mundane things that AI could provide for you quickly. Just like, Google initially was so great, and now AI and TikTok, if it didn't substitute, at least enhanced those destinations. So it eliminates jobs, and that's scary. But every time we've eliminated jobs, people don't realize up to about 150 years ago in the United States, 97% of the jobs in America were agricultural. Everybody worked on a farm because you had to have that many people working
Right.
to produce just the basic needs. As a matter of fact, they called economics I forget the exact words, the dismal science.
Okay.
Because Malthus, I don't know if you ever heard of Malthus, the Malthus theory was humanity grows at a geometric. We keep on, the population 100 years ago was less than a third of what it is today. So it's never ending. It keeps growing and
Right.
growing. But the food ability to produce food and farm products grows at least at that time, he felt would grow at a not a geometric, but an arithmetic, 1, 2, 3. So the population would outpace dramatically the ability to a human race to provide the needs of essential foods.
Right.
And today, we've gone from 98% of the people in agriculture, everybody providing. In those days, most people provided essentially what they needed for themselves. If they had a little left over, they would sell it, make it available to their neighbors, sell it to their neighbors. Today, there's only 3% of the population from 93%, 3% producing agricultural products.
Right.
And it produces so much that with the 3%, we produce so much that we have tons of extra production such that we can export it to countries in need and to others throughout the world.
Right. Yeah.
So, so each progress has a price. Same with AI. It helps kids with their homework, but it also can substitute for the kids, or teaches them the answer 1 and 1 faster than you have to study, or 10 times 5. But then the kids lose their capacity. Like I could do a lot of arithmetic in my head because that was essential early on.
Right.
I have friends that can do multiplications they have methods of 7 digits times 10 digits, and they do it like that.
Yep.
There's formulas.
Yep.
So it has advantages and disadvantages. We have to learn to use it advantageously.
Exactly.
And the same with saying, I won't read anything that's written by AI is a ridiculous statement, because some of it is as good as Shakespeare, and a lot of it is garbage. So somebody has to make that judgment.
Yes, of course, and I think that's where the person comes in, right?
What about the impact of social media on politics?
Yeah, well, I think this particularly this comes around a lot of the, misinformation that comes out of campaigning, right, and how social media amplifies that, and then what is the role of these platforms that should, in a way, police that misinformation. And so I think, for instance, the new way of campaigning is speaking to a lot of these influencers, like yourself, Morty, on podcasts and getting their message out. But at the same time, the podcaster has some sort of responsibility to their listeners to call the balls and strikes, I guess is the best way to describe it. And so, it's important for the podcaster to be informed about what the topic is, and then also push back when they know that there's some misinformation, or it's always hard to know everything that's going to be said during a podcast. So, but if you have a weekly podcast, the next time you show up, to let people know, hey, there was some information that may have been incorrect, or I want to clean that up. There's not enough of that right now. It just kind of sits there, out there, and sort of, goes out to the public, and then it never gets cleaned up. So I think podcasters and influencers have a responsibility to their audiences to, bring them the right information, the correct information, even if on the podcast itself it may not be incorrect. It's important to correct it. So
That's not the fault of the media, though.
no,
Because historically, politicians bragged and exaggerated and gave misinformation and outright lies. So the media is not to blame. It's the use of the media
certainly,
by the politicians.
certainly, yep. And it's also
But it's also a way for people to become more informed, because there are worthwhile debates and discussions that enlighten people and inform them of misinformation.
yes,
So it's how do you use what was it? What was his name? Marshall McLuhan or something? Said the media is the message. He used to say, in the old days, to get more knowledge, you had to go into the classroom. And today, when you go into the classroom, you're getting less knowledge than is available through all the media. So
right.
it depends how you use it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. 100%.
Is political ideology becoming a brand, and are voters becoming consumers rather than citizens?
Right. So I think actually this is a good, way to close it, and also speak to sort of a couple words of advice, because I think too much we are consumers and not citizens, which means we need to need not only to consume the information, but we should also be doing our own independent research as far as, if we hear something, hey, let's get a couple more sources and make sure that the information is correct. I think that's where education comes in for our little ones, to start teaching them digital literacy. And it means not only just consuming the information and then saying, I'm going to believe whatever that person told me, but to make up your own mind based on multiple sources, understanding the context of things. Too much we bypass nuance, right? So we need to understand sort of the context and the nuance of what people are saying. So I think education needs to change a little bit for our kids to teach them more digital literacy as we are obviously becoming more smarter. There's more information out there. We don't need to memorize everything, but we need to be more active in our
Jesse, with
literacy.
all due respect, in terms of your response, it's not only the little ones, it's the biggest
It's
ones
the big
too.
ones too. No, but we have to. Unfortunately, maybe the big ones are too far gone. We need to start with the little ones. But
In recent years, politicians have taken vast liberties.
Yep.
So all of the population, and don't knock the consumers, because the economy depends overwhelmingly on consumer behavior.
100%.
The GDP is made up, I think, of 2/3 of the GDP is consumer spending. So my producer is signaling me that this conversation with Jesse's been so interesting and so compelling. The time flew by, and we're at the end of the podcast. So, Jesse, thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure.
I hope you all appreciated as I did, the wisdom and the knowledge and the articulate manner in which Jesse Broom conveyed the answers to these many. We covered about 2% of all the questions we had. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll have to have you back again.
Yes, please.
And Mr. Producer, I want to say goodbye to my beloved, invaluable listeners. One other thing I'll tell you. I got a note from a chief executive of one of the Fortune 100 companies. And he says every year he gives away thousands of gifts. And he, most often he's lucky if he gets a response saying, thank you, I really appreciate it. You sent me that gift. And never hears about it since. He says he's been sending out this book in recent months, and he gets thank you notes saying what a big winner it is for him, because even months later, people are contacting him and say, it's the best gift I ever had, I'm benefiting. I read it to my kids. I once walked over, turned off the TV, and they screamed, Daddy, that's our most favorite program, don't do that. And he says, I'll retape it. And then he read them one page. It's made up of 365 pages, one page for every day. You don't have to adhere to that, but it's available in that manner. And it has humor and jokes and anecdotes and all kind of things that make you smarter, wiser, and more capable of enjoying life and fulfilling the goal of being content. Right. I can't get that word. I always think of happiness, of true happiness, truly uplifting, inspiring, genuine happiness. So if it's good enough for him, I suggest not only buy it for yourself, but buy it for somebody you care about, that you want, whose life you'd like to help improve. And if they don't like it, if they tell you they didn't get a benefit from it, tell them to send back the purchase slip that you will provide them, and I will send them double that dollar amount back. So far, by offering that, making that generous offer, at the beginning I was worried I'll go broke, but I haven't had one taker as of yet. So somebody could lie and just to get their money back, and I would honor that. But I'm telling you, do it, get it, buy it for a friend, somebody you value, a client, a customer. And with that, I want to say, have a great week. Thank you again, Jesse.
Thank you.
Come again more often. And I hope to see you all, my precious, beloved sharers, confederates in the weekly 6:30 Wednesday podcast, The Voice of Wisdom. Bye. I wish you everything wonderful every day of your life. Each day should be better than the day before unto eternity. Bye.